of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to the Racehour, sponsored by Betfred and Gambling.com. And today, our usual review boys, myself, Diarmuid and Tony Keenan, are becoming the preview boys. And we're joined by Paddy Aspell. Paddy, how are you?
Good evening, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on, Paddy. The old gang is back together. We might kick Tony off someday and get Dino back in, Diarmuid, will we?
Yeah. We'll have to do that at some point.
Really get the old crew. How are you doing, Tony?
All good, Stephen. All good, right?
How did Monaghan go at the weekend? Draw, was it?
Oh, Stephen.
No, they won.
Good man, Stephen. Good man, Stephen. Yes, well done on slipping that
They're
50
big having, weren't they?
Of course, yeah. Beat them nicely, Stephen. Beat them nicely.
The old enemy, always a nice one. I didn't even know the result now, and I should have there. Right, listen, the show goes, we're recording Thursday night, so we're going to really spend time on the Saturday card, a little bit on the Sunday card. So you'll be getting this into your inboxes on Friday morning. So Saturday, big focus for us. And straight away, Dermo, we'll go to you first, Lord of the Manor. The 2 mile 6 novice grade 1 hurdle. Good shape to it. A lot of talk about Final Demand, impressive at Limerick. But what did you think? He's short enough for a horse that's only won a maiden hurdle, I thought.
That's exactly my thought as well. Now, the kind of, how he won was very impressive. The horses he beat by 15 lengths have both come out in one since. So, as in, he's done everything right, but he's very short. And Paul Townend, he has a 33% record at the DRF, but he's got this race wrong more often than not. Now, last few years, Old Danny's been beating him, but Old Danny's not on he's not on one of the more fancied ones. I thought Sounds Victorious would be more of a bet for an Albert Bartlett than here. I thought Cass as well. I love that horse, but I do think he's more of a bet for that sort of a test than this. And I thought Super Sunday, who I know Tony likes, but I do. I watched that run back and I thought that was a serious performance from kind of where he came from. That form is very strong. He will have learned plenty. Like he is a horse now who came from his first run for Willie was in a Supreme, and he actually ran well in that race, and then he's kicked on since. This could be his mark. He just needs to switch off a bit more with his new headgear on board. And at 9-2 or so, I thought the fact that he's in here from a grade 1, I thought that might mean something as well, Cass. And I do think that he's far too big a price for the fact that his back form now is quite strong. So in a race where I'm not going to be going mad in, he would be the one who would be taking my money, Cass.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Dermo, would you not be worried, Patrick? I hate him riding against the pros. What do you think?
I don't mind him too much. I wouldn't be as anti. I just think that, particularly when he knows a horse well, as he always rode Charge and all these other horses here as well.
Yeah.
And the one thing I find weird, Cass, about these bookings is I don't know whether Danny Mullins has pissed off Willie somehow, but he's definitely not on the more fancied second ones at all over the weekend so far, which is very strange. Danny is brilliant.
Fourth string now.
Yeah, he's very strong at Leopardstown, and he's behind Sean O'Keefe. He's behind Brian Hayes in a race. It's very, very strange. Really odd, I thought.
Yeah. Danny's always been, I don't think he's Willie's favourite nephew anyway. It always seems to be that way. Paddy, what did you think of this race? It's an interesting race. Like, there's a lot of angles with it.
Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt he is tight at that sort of price, isn't he? Final Demand, but without a doubt, there's a huge engine in there. And I mean, it would be great to see the connections because obviously, Caroline Tisdale, who's got plenty of runners in the UK as well, hasn't she, with David Pipe? She's a big supporter of the game, and obviously Brian Drew owns the other two legs. He was very, very good in his point-to-point, and as Dermo said, the form of that Limerick race has had a good old boost, and he absolutely kicked them out of the way that day. This is a deep old race, though, to be fair. I mean, I thought the difference in price between Super Sunday and Wingman was a little bit unfair, really, because I mean, Wingman, he was virtually unrideable in their bumpers last year, wasn't he? But a few flights of hurdles have definitely straightened him out a little bit. This is probably as far as he wants to go now, in fairness. Wingman, I'd like to see him let rip over a little bit shorter than this. So, I mean, at the prices, Final Demand, he can go and win for me. I thought that Declan Quealy's mare was worth a look here. Mozzie's sister. She's a big old price, and she's got it all to do on the book here, a rating of 127. She's the lowest in here, but the Yard are having a really, really good run. They've had a good solid 2 months, and Declan's got a few darts to fire at the board over the couple of days. So I was going to go for the sneaky bit of each way stuff here, considering we have got the 12 runners and a little bit of Mozzie's sister each way.
Oh, mighty. And I know a lot of the lads that own that horse, Paddy, so I'll probably see them in the shop tomorrow. I'll let them know that Paddy Aspell was tipping her up. They'll be delighted. Tony, actually, before I go to you, Tony Dermot, you made the point about Willie's number one being the wrong one often in this race. And Matt Toombs, who listens to the podcast, did a really good article today on how Willie's favourites kind of fare against the rest of his runners. And I think 66% of the time in this race, this century, it's his second, third string, is it not the first string that do best in this race. So I thought that was interesting, Tony. I mean, Final Demand, Willie, they often get it wrong in this race. What do you think of the shape of the race?
Yeah, very interesting what Paddy says there, but Declan Queally having twice as many runners on the first day of the DRF than Henry de Bromhead wasn't one now I had in me bingo card, as to say. I think Henry de Bromhead now, I don't know, 2 runners on the whole card, fairly pity for the return. I know he's aiming at Cheltenham. Anyway, besides the point, I'm not a race. I have a massively strong opinion. I don't see any massive holes in any of the Mullins big 3 here. Don't go back, Final Demand at 7-4, 13-8, whatever he is, though he was probably the second most impressive maiden hurdle of Christmas after Work Ahead, really good at Limerick. You could definitely consider Super Sunday and even Sounds Victorious each way here. Definitely make that case. Just on the Paddy Mullins thing, I'm probably going to have something on Super Sunday. I think I'm going to wait until late now with that. Don't think the models. I think the models are like you, Stephen. I don't think they like Patrick in the race against the
good judges, the models.
Yeah, well, they're at it a long time, these lads, and they seem to be getting a squeeze out of everybody. So yeah, they seem to know what they're doing. But I just find late on maybe they can hate Patrick. But certainly the booking hasn't been reflected in the market so far because he's the same price as he was all during the week. So I think a sit around.
In fairness, it was known he was riding this one all week,
Yeah, they have the bit of connection there, and all right, yeah. But there's, as Paddy says there's other horses there with a chance. I think with Wingman, maybe like to see him go back right-handed. I think his better efforts have been there. The really good performances on Punchestown, he's trying to go that way a bit. I thought Sport and Glory kind of ran all right in Taurus, kind of travelled best. Holds his head a bit high, but go back on softer ground, I'd say it'll suit. I'm sure that run was kind of needed. But no massive strong opinion, so you can just move on.
Have you any steer on the ground, Tony? Like, is soft? How soft are we talking? Are we talking?
Yeah, it's still a little bit of a hard to know because there's rain forecast there tonight. There's rain forecast early Sunday morning. Was it yielding on the chase there at the minute and soft on the hurdle? Maybe yielding to soft on the chase and soft on the hurdle, I'd kind of be thinking. I'm sure they're absolutely thrilled with that because the last thing they want is a load of withdrawals, which they have had at this meeting on occasion in the past.
Yeah, well, the reason I asked, and I'm interested in the ground, is, geez, I thought Joystick at 50-1 was just way too big a price. You'd hate to be laying that. They tried him over 2-3 the first day, finished 4th. I can't remember who won James Gate won the race, and he just looked out stare. They actually dropped him back and tripped in. Desperate day at Navan and won really well over 2 miles. Dour stare. I just think 50-1 is mad, and maybe Danny could do something from the front on him, and I just think 50-1 is a huge price. Softer the better. He'll definitely stay the trip. Obviously very interested in Sounds Victorious as well, with the view to the Albert Bartlett, but I think an absolute grind over 3 miles is what he wants. So you'd want to see him staying on in second or third to be perfect. You'd be delighted with that. The Juvenile Hurdle, better race now, and Tony, you've been the one espousing the claims of Lady Vega Allen all the last few weeks. Sean O'Keefe rides. I suppose you weren't too surprised given that Townend rode San Lucy and hadn't rode her at Leopardstown.
I'm not surprised at all. Sure, Townend's going to ride for the bigger owners when there's not much between them. Sensible thing to do out of him, I'm sure. But the knock-on effect of that is Lady Vega Allen has now gone back out to a price where you can kind of bet her each way again with the Dead 8. Now, you're hoping the Dead 8 are going to stay in. I think the shape of the race is fairly tidy for that. I think Sonny Bill now would need to do a lot. He's the 4th favourite, need to do a lot to get the ground back with her. He has had a lot more runs than her as well. So I think I've made the case for this girl before. It's essentially that just kind of expecting Willie Mullins to get more improvement out of her than Gavin Cromwell would get out of Hello Neighbour. And I see the HUD has gone on Hello Neighbour, which wasn't the most positive sign. He was keen the last day. I think that was drawing him into making mistakes. But I just think Cromwell is obviously excellent trainer, but no one gets improvement out of them like Mullins. And he really was talking her up there at one of the press days as well. kind of a surprising one that he was going to talk up. I do kind of like her for the triumph and well, but I think she's a much better bet at 4-1 on Saturday. She's running. She only has to compete against Irish horses, one of which she's very closely matched with. Much rather better for Saturday. And she'd probably be the best bet on the card, I'd say, possibly at the weekend.
Okay, strong vote for Lady Vague Allen for Tony. Paddy, what did you think of the juvenile hurdle?
Yeah, it's a real pity. I mean, obviously the fog it's in, we just couldn't get as good a look as we wanted at them, really, with Lady Vega Allen and Hello Neighbour. And I mean, he's got a fair engine, this Hello Neighbour, and he's by Harzand out of a Monju mare, and he's unbeaten, full stop, isn't he? 3 from 3. The hood does go on, which is certainly a little bit of a worry, I think it's fair to say. But Willie has given this Lady Vega Allen a few nice mentions, and you guys have mentioned it as well already. Sean O'Keefe, he's coming in for some good spins over the Saturday and the Sunday, and he's definitely got a good one here for sure. And at the prices, I think I'd be in agreement with Tony here. Lady Vega Allen, the mares, or the fillies should I say, are looking to win this race for the last 3 years, so that's certainly a positive, I think, to take on board. But as we mentioned beforehand, very, very Willie Mullins heavy, some of these races, and this is another one. But I think one of his fillies might win it here, and again, as Townend did last year, he might just have chosen wrong here, so I'd go Lady Vega Allen as well.
Okay, 2 votes for Lady Vega Allen. Dermo, you were a bit of a Gavin Cromwell, Keith Donoghue fanboy, I might venture to say. And Hello Neighbour was possibly the most tipped horse I've ever had in my WhatsApp before Christmas. What do you think of the race? Are you in the Cromwell camp?
Well, look, I'm clearly a bigger Tony Keenan fan because I've been moved over towards Lady Vague Allen. But I thought Lady Vague Allen, I actually watched this race back, and I do think she'll be the one that could have the kind of more improvement. I know his jumping he can get better and everything else as well. But I just thought she'd a lot to do now. So I do think that I don't have much to add there, but she's definitely one. The one that I thought as well, Castle, like she'd be my win bet, but the one I thought was in each way kind of interesting was I watched back a lot of this last night. I wasn't sleeping great, so I kind of watched a lot of their runs. I thought Galileo Dame's a big enough all price now. I thought that she ended up jumping the first. She got in the front. Now the fog ruled out most of the race, so I can't pretend I saw much of it. But she didn't look to me now like a horse that kind of wanted to. She didn't want to lead. She ended up leading. She's ended up 96 after 4 runs in the flat, where she was kind of midfielder, held up in all of those runs. Joseph O'Brien said in his interview right before Christmas that she's a stakes mare, which is very hard to kind of ever get jumping a hurdle, obviously. And also that she'd be a much better horse on soft ground. She actually got the best of the ground that day on the 27th. So I just think with her, she travelled in beautifully. She got passed by Wendrock. I just have a feeling with her, better race. She'll have something to aim at. She's a very good flat mare. She got a rating of 96 after 4 runs. She jumped well for the hurdles. I saw her jump that day. And I just think with maybe a bit more of a look and a bit more of a horse to actually follow through at 16-1 for the level off the flat that she's carrying in. She's as good as any of these on the flat. So, for like the level she's carrying in, she was picked off by a bigger horse last time, but she'll have learned plenty there. Joseph spoke as enthusiastically as Joseph speaks. It's never that enthusiastic, but it's a bit anyway. But he spoke well about her. And I just thought 16-1, 20-1 or so is a big price about her, Cass, just considering her ceiling of ability could be quite high.
Okay. Mention for Galileo Dame. I think Hello Neighbour's going to take all the beating. I thought he jumped not great from what we saw, and he was quite keen, and I thought it was a hell of a run, first run over hurdles. And I'd imagine he'll improve as well. The hood's a worry though, so probably wouldn't be going mad in the stakes. And we move on to what we call the Irish Arkle, where Masborough and Il Atlantique are making up the majority of the market. Paddy, are you in the Masborough camp?
I think you'd have to be. This is another one. I think anytime Willie Mullins mentions this horse's name, his face just lights up a little bit, and that doesn't happen very often. Only with the odd horse. And I mentioned to you guys about this chap being a 5-year-old. That would be the only stat that would be against Masborough, but just so lightly raced, have wasted absolutely no time in kicking on over a fence with him. He was probably the horse from last year's DRF, wasn't he, who went into all the notebooks, without a doubt. But he looked good. last time over fences. Just trying to look amongst the rest of them. Il Atlantique, he's looked pretty good over fences. I thought he got a peach off Town End last time, got right in underneath that standside rail at Naas and put in a good round of fencing that day. Hard to really know what to expect with Gerald Loughlin's horse here, Jana Lapan. It's real sort of question marks as to know how much ability he has, but interesting how they're going to campaign him. I think they'll actually, to say we've only got the 6 runners here, they might be taken along at a reasonable old gallop. Firefox I've mentioned before as well, guys, that I just think he's fairly watery now under pressure, Firefox, so I'd be happy to leave him alone, and I'd be more than happy to go with the younger legs here in Majborough.
Yeah, Diarmuid, myself and Tony have all mentioned how much we love Majborough, so we won't spend too much time on it. I presume you're in the Majborough camp.
Oh God, yeah. Look, I just really hope, Catch, keep it as quick as possible, that he just wins well here, and we have a bit of a talk about him versus Sergino would be a lovely old chat, kind of, for an Arkle, because we haven't had a real proper dinger of an Arkle now in a while. So, it will be nice. I just think Majborough, the way Willie talks about him, is the only horse Willie's got wrong like that is Facile Vega. I think, remember, he talked him up massively, but bar him, the rest of them he's been fairly bang on about. So I'd say Majborough is just a touch of something very special. So yeah. No,
Yeah.
guess I'll be watching. Yeah, watching brief.
I don't know. Geez, I'd say if we sat down now, you could think of a few. And Boston Bob was another, and there's plenty of.
He won an Irish Gold Cup, Boston
thinking,
Bob, though, I suppose, didn't he?
He
The
won
only
what?
thing
Punchestown Gold
lads,
Cup. Punchestown
Okay.
Gold Cup. Yeah.
his form's a bit smelly now. His form's starting to be a bit smelly now. Like Mr. Gift beat those other ones at top with a little bit in hand now in Fairy House, that old format. Just Cargeezy didn't do much for Nascot either. I definitely wouldn't be. I wouldn't rush. I wouldn't back him at 4-6 anyway. I'm not saying I'm going to have another bet in it now, but yeah, there's something a bit iffy about that Fairy House form. I know he did well to win on the inner track on nice ground. No thoughts on that, any years, or what do you reckon?
I think he hammered them. To be honest, that's all. I just think he was miles clear of them, and I think Tully Hill and the other one did an awful lot wrong that day with Mr. Giff as well. I thought that. But look, you're right on paper. I just think that there was enough excuses that Tully Hill jumped the wrong way and pulled the head off himself. An Asian Master followed him, so I do. On paper, you're right, but I just think there was enough excuses for what Tully Hill did that day wrong at Fairy House that I'm on the fence about it. I just do think he's very, very good. That's all. I really do.
And it wasn't really
I kind of agree with Tony. I kind of agree with you in the sense that even if Majborough was something like 10 to 11 here or 4 to 5, I don't think I'd be rushing back him. We've all been dogmatic on how good he is. And I'd say if you were getting 4 to 5 Sergino, you'd be rushing in here. But just the form is a bit smelly, as you say. And I agree with you. And there's a few decent horses in this. Il Atlantique, though, the one thing, like he's bi-coastal path and they're all mudlarks. He's never won an anthem better than soft before try, so it's softer the better for Il Atlantique. The next race we're going to talk about is the Irish Gold Cup. And Paddy, it's a hell of a rematch, a renewal again. Galopin Des Champs is looking unbeatable around Leopardstown, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the only worry for me about the Fav here, boys, is you often hear Ruby Walsh referring to, when horses put in huge performances, as well as they can look visually very impressive on the day. Just going back in next time, can they actually repeat it? Because what he did the last day, he gave the last a foot, but this horse, the way he ate the ground up the run in, and one thing I always notice and in both occasions when he's won this race is when they go past the line. Townend can't pull him up. He's way off down the hill again. He's just an incredibly good horse, but he put an awful lot into that race last time, and that would be my only worry with this fella. But the fact that
if you're a jockey, like there's no doubt he got an easy lead the last time. Like, would you do anything riding against him? To try and upset him, to change the tactics? What can you do when you're against a horse that has that preference for going forward?
Well, I think that's just it, Cass. I think you're only just going to negate your own chance then, aren't you, of winning? If you want to get into his ribs, I think you'll pay the price. And this is why I think it's going to be a real mystery. As far as Fact to File goes, are they looking a few weeks further down the line with him? They want to just get him polished, run a good race, but more so they want him to just drop the anchor a little bit and race properly on Saturday. More so turning up here and looking to eyeball Galloping des Champs here and get in a proper old war. I'm not really so sure. Now, visually, until Mark Walsh said it after that run last time, because you never really see Mark Walsh wrestling with one, or, you know, he said he was very keen, but he really did headbutt one of them fences away from the stands at Leopardstown. But look, he was never going to win. You know, I mean, I'm trying to think of a horse that would have beaten Galloping des Champs that day. But yeah, it's going to be really intriguing to see, like, are they going to drop him out with the washing? Are they going to ride him out halfway? But I'd say that their biggest mission is to get this fella to race properly and just more efficiently on Saturday. But in doing that, I think they're just handing the favourite the race here.
And Paddy, you're Frank Berry. You're the racing manager. What's the instructions then to Mark Welch to get him to settle? Is it out the back with cover? Is it getting him wide out the back that he can see and try and give him daylight? Or is it trying to get him settled in front? If that's, you know, possible, sometimes the horse will get to the front and they'll drop the bait a bit.
Well, they gave him a little bit of room last time, but that said, you know, he was in amongst it enough. But, you know, Mark Walsh, he was the man on top. He said he was just far too racy, so he's going to know. But, I mean, we've got 10 runners here, so they're not going to drop him right out. But the thing is, Galloping des Champs, he's going to go forward, so they're not going to hack around here. And I just think if Mark Walsh was to go halfway and just see where he ends up with this fella, and look, they'll have gotten plenty of gas out of his tank that day as well. And we could see a different horse here if he switches off. But I just think if they're really concentrating on getting this fella to switch off, they're maybe not thinking plan A is Saturday. I think they could be looking a little bit further down the line, and if so, this could be Galloping des Champs getting the hat-trick bid up here.
Yeah, I tell you now, if I was Frank Berry, I would tell Nia Maximus you're getting fit for the Grand National and go as hard as you can for 2 miles and annoy the hell out of Galloping des Champs. But look, it's all the Mullen stable, so I'm not sure how likely that is to happen. Diarmuid, do you give Fact to File any chance in turning it around?
Not here at Leopardstown, no. I just would like, it's a race now that I wouldn't be getting involved in at all. I think Galloping des Champs takes the absolute world of stopping, which is nonsense of a statement, because he just wins. I think Fact to File, excellent horse, but I struggle to see him getting all that much closer. I think Galloping des Champs, he's just at home here. It's like Hurricane Fly against the lads back in the day when Connor and Jesky were trying to get there. It could be a different story at some other point, but he's just so good at Leopardstown particularly that I do struggle at. And he's a 9-year-old as well, Cass. I got that wrong last week, so I just have to say that too.
Yeah. Like, I think he was so mighty the last day. He is very consistent, but maybe he won't quite put up a 177 performance. So he might put up 170, and I think it's totally over-egged how keen people said Fact to File was. I watched back the race today, and he was a little bit free going past the stands the first time with Mark Welch, but it wasn't like he was tearing the head off him or tearing the arms off him. Like, I think that's a bit of retrospective stuff. And as well as that, Fact to File he was almost coming up sides jump at the last, or maybe a length down, and Mark Welch did very little from the back of the last. He got to the girths of Townend maybe 50 yards after the last, 30 yards maybe. He had one smack, and when he saw the Fact to File wasn't going up sides, he just let Galloping des Champs off, and he stood up in his irons basically, and he hammered the rest of them. I don't know, I think Fact to File he's improving if he's learning, and if your man comes back a little bit, I think it could be quite a lot closer. I've had a good bet in Fact to File each way. I think he's miles ahead of the rest of them. Tony, am I mad?
Oh no, you're not mad. I'm laughing at you saying Nia Maximus make the run. And do you remember last time he made the run in Leopardstown? I think he nearly got through the rail, didn't he? I tell you, he never made the run. I think he said after he'll never make the run with this horse again. Look, this is the antichrist of a race now. I like betting in, and I'll be honest with you, my whole approach to this meeting was I just started with the handicaps and I've worked my way in, and I haven't got to these grade ones. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to get to them. I've no interest in betting in these races where Mullins is 70% of the field. I hate guessing. You're looking for in fact, the fail each way, fair enough. I can see the case for that. But trying to find the horse that's going to be the third home, again, no interest. So no, just move it along.
Yeah, no, and I kind of agree with you. Look, we'll talk about the DRF as a spectacle, as a betting medium, as a racing product in the review show. We'll just stick to the racing now, but there's plenty to talk about in that respect, I think, and the handicaps are the most interesting bit. And Tony, we'll go to you. So for your roundup of the rest of the Saturday card, we have the 3 mile handicap hurdle, which is fascinating, really. With we have this perspective of Percival Galwa, and sorry, my thing isn't loading up. I'm struggling to think of the name of the horse. Meeting of the Waters.
Meeting of the Waters, yeah.
Take it away, Tony, with that race. He's about 40
pounds. I don't want to be a complete downer on the meeting, actually, because I'm not. This is just 6 or 7 years ago, or whatever, up to 2021. The grade ones were probably really good betting mediums, but now you just have to move on to the handicaps. That's the way I'm doing it anyway. Actually, this is a very interesting race. Jippy McManus team took horses out of this to obviously let this horse in. Like Park of Kings there, for instance, would look a really obvious one for this eye catcher in the 2.5 mile of Christmas. He's come out to facilitate this horse getting in at the bottom. They mentioned the hurdling thing for a while with him at the start of the season. This was in their head. He shipped quite well in the Paddy Power. Couldn't knock anyone really often, but I've landed on a couple of horses here, kind of quite big prices that I think have chances. Certainly making the frame, both of which ship well at Christmas. I think Lucky Lyrene is a horse that kind of hasn't the conditions to suit in his last 3 runs, but before that was very much on the up. He ran into a Ted Walsh JP McManus horse, was flying at the time, beating him at Easter. I don't say he was end of season stuff, or the ground was too fast when he turned out with Punchestown. Then he went to Navan for a race to me that would look quite suitable, that Flicker of Hope one, but he travelled in price in that. I'd say he was nowhere near fit, and he kind of ran like a horse that blew up. Came into it kind of travelling okay 3 out and then kind of weakened out of it. So yeah, I think that run was needed in a big way. And then he, to me, took a step forward in the 2.5 mile at Christmas behind Alga Sparrow. Just 2.5, good ground round there. Steady pace, look far too sharp from, I think, up to 3. Bit slow ground will suit. Gordon Elliott has won more handicaps at this meeting than anyone else since it became the DRF. I must actually get this up here. 2018 it became the DRF. He has won 7 handicaps in that time. Next best is Mullins with 4 and Charles Burns with 4. Burns has done that from 11 runners, which is fairly impressive stuff. But Gordon Elliott has a very good place, strike rate better than Mullins as well. So while maybe the grade ones aren't a massive focus for him, I would say definitely the handicaps are, and he had a good record in this race. He's won it twice, and another 4 or 5 placed horses as well. Not always the fancy one to go with that. And I do like what do you call him? Carl Miller taking over. I think he's good value for £5. So he's one. Now, the second one is a bit more of a flyer because I've mentioned this trainer before a bit on the show, Jonathan Sweeney, who just hasn't been having runners, which is a little bit weird, but he's kind of a high strike rate from a small handful of runners trainer most of the time. And I thought Rushmount of his also shaped quite well in the 3 mile race that win some, lose some. Won at Christmas. Jumping wasn't perfect, but was still going there nicely. 2 out, hit that one, got a bulk of something else at that point, and just kind of didn't really finish off from there. But I thought he was going well at that point. Very unexposed. On his first run over hurdles, he split a pair of horses that are now Lecky Watson and another horse, Rob Cordell, 152 chaser, 140 chaser. That's not that long ago. I think he's full of upsides. And 2 of those are 50s and 66s. I'd be more than happy chancing them each way rather than the favourite. Do you want me to do the 2 mile race, Stephen, or do you anyone event else on that?
What do you think, Diarmuid? Will we stick with this race and get through it up and do the 2 mile? Yeah,
sounds.
Yeah, so Tony Keenan with Lucky Lyrene 50 to 1, Rushmount 66 to 1. Huge price shout. Fair play, Tony. That's very interesting stuff. Well, we'll stick a few quid on them. Diarmuid, while we're talking to you, then it's a belter of a handicap, to be fair.
Yeah, Cass. Yeah, I thought now that I was fierce dark now back in this that Lucky Lyrene, but again, I must be reading Tony's homework there because I'm after falling on him as well. But at 50 to 1 now, it's a fair price, I thought, and he's a big field horse, and Gordon Elliott does just land races with horses like this. He'd call me Lyrene actually a good few years ago. in these same colours who went very close here at this meeting as well on the Sunday. But I definitely do like the. I'm a big fan. Sorry. First of all, the Galois, it's a name that absolutely kills my stammer, but I absolutely love him. He was brilliant at Christmas, I thought, and he's running here off 135, and he's a 153 chaser. He's very well in here, but crucially as well, he was a very good hurdler. He was a good hurdler, and he definitely has mileage left in this mark. That race at Christmas as well, obviously, as always, but particularly this year, that Paddy Power is working out very well, and he won it, I thought, very easily in the end. Going back over hurdling is not going to piss him off too much. He was a very good hurdler. He won a fierce, nice race here. My issue with Meeting of the Waters is the potential, and I know this yard, they won this race with a very similar type in Total Recall back in 18, but sometimes horses that are chasers just aren't hurdlers. There was Alpha Beat, he was 157. I remember Charles Burns and them, they went for about 3 gambles with him over hurdles off 117, and he never raised the gallop over them. He just completely forgot how to hurdle. This does happen. Mick the Jiver was another one that he was owned at home. Fierce good chaser, couldn't jump a hurdle. Eventually he did win a hurdle race off a lower mark. There is horses like this, so all I'm saying is that he's just not 100% bomb proof for what price he will go off, which will be shocking short. He's going to be very, very short there. He could take stopping, but they'd be the two for me, Cass. First of all, Galois, I'm quite confident on him. I thought Call Me Lyrene at a big price was a lovely big price there as well.
Yeah, Lucky Lyrene, a big shout from Diarmuid and Tony Keenan, 50-1, so it doesn't look like that'll last too long. Percival Legalwa won this exact race 2 years ago, Diarmuid, as last run over hurdles.
Yeah.
The one I give a small shout to is Custom Taylor, Declan Quealy, the aforementioned. His yard's flying. He was actually second to, I don't know how you say it, Semeski at Limerick, and he's running at the Grade 1 the first race. And he was second to Will the Wise then at Punchestown. So good bit of solid novice maiden form. He's been given a mark of 116. A Keen Quirk takes off £5, so he's got no weight. He's off 111 here. And given he's been running against those horses who are kind of, Grade 3, and one of them's running a Grade 1, if you're getting in off 111, Custom Taylor, it's hard to know where his ceiling is, but he's 33-1, so I thought he's kind of an unexposed novice that could be interesting in it. Paddy, it's a really good handicap hurdle. What did you think?
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff, Cass. And interesting enough, Willie, he's picked up a few of these horses, hasn't he, from this owner, from Nicky Henderson's. This King Alexander, he absolutely bolted up, albeit the handicapper gave him a little bit of a chance on yard debut. Another good ride for Sean O'Keefe. So I wonder if he's got a bit of mileage left in him, but I really do like this flicker of hope of Mark Fahey's lads. I mean, the only time that this fella, if you look back through his runs, they ran him over 2 mile at Galway. I just couldn't make head or tail of it why they ran him over 2 mile, and he didn't actually run too bad. He finished better than mid-div, and they ran him at the back end of the week and set him up from 2 mile up to 3 mile, and he went and won by 6 lengths. Now at Navan the last day, he probably ended up on the front end early enough, and he ended up just hanging on that day. But the handicapper was impressed to say he only won by a short head. He's put him up to 129 here, so he's got more on his plate. Really do rate Mark Fahey as a trainer. He did a couple of winners at Dundalk there during the week. So, as I've mentioned, he has got more to do off that sort of mark, but very, very likeable horse. And this is his trip all day long. I'm just hoping a better race as well. Just give him a good toe into it. Aidan Kelly on board here again, taking the 5 off. And he's got to keep progressing, but he's very, very upwardly mobile. So I like the look of Flicker of Hope here. And he's a very, very good price for a horse who has had such a good season.
Yeah, that was a good race that he won. A good race he won at Backmere Sack, who's in it. Quay Cool was in it. She's with Williamson's Claim. She's only £2 worse off than last year when arguably she should have won the race. So she'd have a chance as well. It's a really good race, a fascinating race. So we look forward to that one. And then the other handicap on the card is the 2 mile handicap chase, the Ryanair handicap chase. Tony, this is not as good quality as the 3 mile handicap hurdle, I would say. These 2 mile handicap chase in Ireland can be a bit like 6 furlong, not 65s at Dundalk, I always think.
Yeah, they're reasonably competitive this season. I think I have a short list of 4 here. I do think the favourite deserves to be probably the best horse in the Diarmuid Midnight it is. He's had a lot of runs, but he just seems to have improved as dropped them back 2 miles recently. He would want the ground to kind of get a little bit slower, though, I would say. Shanbally Kid's a fascinating runner because what I've seen him over fences, he just can't jump. He's to the point of a dangerous. Now, I had in my head maybe are they trying to set him up for a novices handicap chase at Cheltenham and get him jumping a bit better here in a handicap, but we will see. I know the sponsors own him, but I'd say he's maybe one to be against there as a second favourite. Paul Nolan's horse, maybe he's a 2-miler, kind of based on the last day, but the rest of his form is not very good. So Midnight is probably top of my shortlist, but I don't know if they really want to back him at the prices. Next one on my shortlist is Facile Mode. His jumping is kind of inconsistent rather than bad, even though he's failed to complete on his penultimate start and made a bad mistake the last day. But the form of his initial win over fences is just really strong. I think the 4 behind him all came out and won, including Touch Me Not, who's in the Irish Arkle, who the 2 of them fought out to finish. And the 3rd was the horse that won the big handicap at Cheltenham last weekend, Moon d'Orange. He kind of departed early then the next day at Punchestown, and I'd say on his next run he was probably going best when he hit the front 4 out and made an awful mistake. So yeah, I think he's probably a little bit of a win or bust job. I wouldn't have any interest in backing him each way, but I think if he jumps around he'd be in the mix. And then the other 2 I'm interested in are kind of rags. Hador of Mullins, I'll put it kindly, he got a ride that was setting him up for a different race in the Diarmuid. He was never put into the race at any point. And I would say aiming at a race meeting like this, the DRF would make more sense than aiming him at a Diarmuid. And 20 to 1, I think, is quite a big price about him. Sent him off 11 to 10 for a race at the Punchestown Festival of a mark £1 higher year and a bit ago. So they do see some sort of potential in the mark. And the last one, I think, Stephen, you're giving this horse a life, is a Law of Her Own, who I think is a 2-mile nice ground mare, and this is what she wants now. The worry is, and it was the same worry with Canal End at Naas last weekend, Peter Fahey is in a 15-month-long slump, I would say, at this point. His stats since the start of 2024, I think he's hitting about 5%, whereas in the 3 years previous to that, he was 10 or 11% trainer. He's lost a few owners. Coaching Mick case, this mare is running well to a point, but the Peter Fahey stable form would be a worry. So like my shortlist would be Midnight it is, Facile Mode, Hador and Law of Her Own in that order.
Yeah, while you're talking about Law of Her Own, I'll make the case for her. Like the Peter Fahey form is the worry. I always seem to land on one of Peter Fahey at this meeting, a trainer I like, but we've talked about him being in the drawn rooms. He's only at 6% strike rate this season, but he has had 8 winners, and he had the second the other day. So look, we'll hope, and she has been running very well. Like her chase debut, she actually went off to Dan Skelton for a little while and came back to Peter Fahey. She was there before, but she's had 4 runs over fences. Third to Jessie Evans, who's rated 135, and she could be anything rated about 138. A Law of Her Own's rated 121 now for all these comparisons. She went to a grade 3 in Roscommon, travelled really well. She's a bit of a travelling thing now, and like Tony says about the ground is important. She'd be worried about her on soft ground. If it's the better side of soft, she'll be absolutely fine, and she will travel. She's going to give you a race coming to the last. That kind of a travelly thing. That race at Roscommon, I thought she looked the winner all ends up. San Salvador went and won it. She finished second. Company Sergeant was third. They're both kind of 137 horses. Again, she's rated 121. Went to Clonmel then, 2 mile 5. I don't think that's her trip. Ran really well until the second last. Didn't get home. Pink in the Park won that. Like she was ahead of Allegory Nubassi, who didn't run a race that day. Must Be Obeyed was second, 132. And then she was 5th to Only by Night. Again, right there comes the second last. Travelled really well. That was kind of a classy enough race with Only by Night and Nara. Just think she's classy enough. Rated 121. And interestingly enough, I thought the booking of Rachel Blackmore was interesting. Wouldn't ride much for Peter Fahey. He's only ever had 1 winner for him. So yeah, a Law of Her Own's 20 to 1. Should be my best bet in the handicaps anyway. That's for sure on the Saturday. Paddy, the handicap chase, the 2 mile, what did you think of this race?
Yeah, I was going to say to you, Cass, you were mentioning there about Peter Fahey and Rachel Blackmore. She's taken very, very, literally no outside rides at all. I was having a look earlier on, and apart from riding for the Bromhead in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Obviously, there's a few 10-stone jobs kicking around there on Saturday, so you just have a few rides. But I thought maybe Paul Nolan's on Pion Darrick was interesting here. I mean, to get him a rise up to 1-2-2 for a very narrow margin win last time. But the one thing I think is going to happen here is they're going to go an absolute million. And Sean O'Keefe can just maybe sit in a little bit, get a nice toe into the race. He's a good solid jumper, but more importantly, there might just still be a little bit of rope to play with over fences with this fella. He's only had the 7 starts so far over fences and obviously got the job done here last time. But yeah, these will be very, very solid fractions here and might just be set up for a closer.
Yeah. They're often in a bunch coming to the last of these 2 mile handicaps at Leopardstown, Diarmuid. Set up for a closer. Which one did you go for?
First of all, Shambally Kid, love the horse, but he cannot jump a fence. I've watched him closer than most people have as well because I'm such a big fan of him. He is a brutal jumper. Michael O'Sullivan has been really trying to school this horse over the last 3 times and he just cannot jump a fence. I can't believe the price he is. He has all the ability, I think, for this level. But no, I love Midnight It Is here. Gavin Cromwell's have this weird thing where these horses, Stumptown, etc., don't win for ages and then they just go on this mad run of wins. Final Orders was the same as well. And last time out, I still think the King of PRS was he was the best horse in that race quite comfortably. But I think Midnight It Is was unlucky. How unlucky it was his own fault too. He gets himself behind a bit too far as well. But he finished very well. I'd agree with you. I don't think this is the strongest of races. I respect your mare, but the trainer's so bad at the moment. I think he's the right favourite. And whilst he's short enough, I still think 4 to 1, 9 to 2. I'd be happy enough now as a win bet on him. I think he's a good bit ahead here, and I'm hoping then that's a line through for the that race back in the Dam because I do think those front 3 are very good. But I do think he's a bit ahead of these now. I really do. I think he's a very good favourite.
Okay, very good. 2 strong mentions for him. Any hands up for the bumpers, lads? The bumper, Donny, you want to take that? Or will we roll on to Sunday and have a look at the grade 1s there before we look at the handicaps there?
I'd say it's an ordinary version of this bumper. I think the whole bumper scene is relatively thin, and then the horse that was close to favourite for the champion bumpers after coming out of it. Just pricing it up, the one that I would make a bit overpriced is Nolan Mead's horse, called Keenan. I think he's a better horse on slower ground. They took him out at Christmas when the ground had probably got quite fast in the race that Declan Quealy's mare won. And I would think that he is a little bit overpriced, and I'll probably have a few quid on him, but again, not a strong view. Charles Burns' horse, his form is working out really well in Limerick. I see that Gordon Elliott put the second horse, Jigginstown, bought into him since that, so there's a bit of solidity to that form. He was quite green, and you think there'd be a bit of improvement there for him. And yeah, he would up
nasty head carriage on that Charles Burns horse, I thought, Tony.
Yeah, well,
very high, and I'm
bit
wearing a
bit wonky, alright.
wonky, wearing a nose band as well, and head thrown up in the air. Yeah, would be keeping an eye on him. I wouldn't like to be going too strong on him until you see him do it a couple of times and know that that's the way he goes. And speaking of unusual head carriages, Ballyburn and Imperi Pass, Champ Kiley, good race in the Ladbrokes Novice Chase. Dermo, would you be forgiving Ballyburn and just think it's a trip thing, or would you be worried about him this season?
I am completely on the fence about this race now. Ballyburn last time out, you can explain it by trainer's form, you can explain it by a few different things. A few of those horses cut out. You can also explain it by trip. Probably was just hammered by a very, very good racehorse as well, but worried about him. Impera Pass was one that I wasn't sure about, but then he was absolutely brilliant at Christmas. Really, really good. Terrific jumper as well. I really like him. And then Champ Kiley was excellent as well over his fences, I thought as well. He was absolutely brilliant. This is a deep enough race now. Champ Kiley could be the one maybe that, as in this is his Gold Cup, I'd imagine, at 9 years old. He's not going to be kind of kicking on past here, but the really was a race where I could understand why you'd be taking on Ballyburn, but I just had no interest in doing so now at all. I'm looking forward to kind of watching this. So it took me a long time there to say nothing really, Cass.
Yeah. Paddy, do you have any view on Ballyburn and this race? I thought Sarah Story 50 to 1 is just a wild price altogether. You could see, especially if the ground goes and it gets soft Sunday morning, which it might. I'd like to be having a few quid on Stellar Story if it was really soft at 50s.
Cass
Paddy,
is
you're on
absolutely,
mute there. Yeah.
the step up and trip is absolutely massive for Ballyburn, Cass, isn't it? Because even Nico de Bonville, when he came back in after he beat him at Kempton last time, even he said halfway around, I could tell that this Ballyburn isn't a fast horse and he could take it whenever he wanted. But I mean, I've had one or two people I mentioned about this Ballyburn. He just hangs in the air a little bit over his fences, doesn't he? He got it all his own way first time. All he appears he wants to do is running under his fences a little bit, rather than having a cutted one and just being a little bit brave. And like you watched him at Kempton, I mean, I know your man had kicked him out of the way, but like he banked that last fence, a very, very odd bit of jumping. So he's got to certainly brush up in that department for sure. I thought Imperial Pass, these Diamond boys, they do improve for jumping a fence. He's jumping through over fences. The only worry for me is he's had a couple of ordinary runs at Leopardstown, but I thought the ride Dar Jacob gave him at Limerick last time, confidence-wise, I think could really do this horse a hell of a lot of good. And he's definitely on the improve. So I'm a little bit like Dermot. I'm on the fence a little bit with Ballyburn until he starts to get a bit more competitive with his jumping. So I think I'd go Imperial Pass here to make it 3-3 over fences and be very interested. Hopefully, he'd have that man JJ Slevin on board.
Yeah, he certainly will. And Jesus, his jumping is really good. That Leopardstown factor is interesting. It'd be interesting to see. And a horse that was at Leopardstown the last day, Paddy, while we're with you, God, he jumped terrible. Cut back to board. Terrible. And he's 8-11 to win a Grade 1 novice hurdle. I mean, he looked like a ghost to me going over the fences, or over the hurdles. I just thought he was desperate. Are you forgiving him? Now, he did have Patrick Mullins on board in the horse's defence.
Yeah, there's no doubt the jumping was very, very ordinary for sure. But I think this is an okay race now, to be fair. But there's no doubt the engine is absolutely huge. But the fact that he can kick every hurdle out of the ground cast and still go and get the job done like he did, and this is a race that is going to be very, very Willie Mullins dominated. And thank God that Warren Greatrex, he's definitely coming with Good and Clever. And I mean, if the rain arrives on the Saturday night, I know he's got a bit to do on the book, this Good and Clever, but he's by Soldier of Fortune. He's going to absolutely love this ground, this horse. And Warren Greatrex, he's got a bit of previous, hasn't he, at the DRF?
Yes.
And very interested that he's chucking his hat in the ring with this fella. And I think you could do worse than maybe have a few quid on this chap each way, certainly if the rain arrives for Good and Clever.
What was the name of the mare that won the Irish Gold Cup, Paddy?
Le
Bagawa, very good. Straight away, that's impressive now. That's a few years ago. We're starting to go back. We'll keep moving on. The Dublin Chase, Gaelic Warriors 4-6, Marine National 4-1, at Fabiolo 8-1, Solness, who won the Grade 1 at Christmas 8-1, Calixios 16s, and Captain Guinness, your Queen Mother winner at 25s. 25s kind of bar that. Tony, I know you're not having a bet on the Grade 1s, but what did you think of Gaelic Warrior at Christmas?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't just go that far, Stephen. I just think my stronger bets have been handicap. Hold on, set it down, Stephen. Jesus. Irish champion. I don't think I bought the Irish champion hurdle. We won't have no interest in, I don't think. But I priced this up earlier on God. I don't know the trust me prices here because the two I had overpriced. I'm sorry, there's another one where the two Henry de Bromhead horses. I don't know, can I face into them? The quick Calixios got relatively close to John Bonnet Sandown. I haven't paid the price for racing a bit with him. I suppose you could make a case that would you chance something like at Fabiolo? It's not that long ago he went on a 6 or 7 race unbeaten streak and seemed to be set off 1-4 for a champion chase, but just don't know. There are enough doubts around those horses not to be holding a strong view in this race.
Yeah, this morning now, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but having thought about it, like El Fabiolo at 8-1, I think is the bet of the whole weekend, because Gaelic Warrior isn't to be trusted. If Gaelic Warrior this best turns up, he probably will win, right? But he's never really ran well at Leopardstown. Obviously, he won the Old Pierce Hurdle, but he was desperate last year at the DRF, and he wasn't great at Christmas. and he is inconsistent. Marine Nationale has breathing issues, and there's not that much else in the race. Like El Fabiolo, if he can get his jumping in order, just take 8 to 1. Like, what price would you lay El Fabiolo at if you're in the pub with the lads? I'd be 5 to 2, 9 to 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was that price on the day. So you're getting 8 to 1. I just think it's absolutely enormous. Am I mad, Dermo?
No, like it's a race that's just very hard. I think like if that favourite, you've kind of summed it up all very well there, Cass. If he turns up, all the reports were that he was behind in his work and everything else, that you would be a little concerned that this really is a prep run. But based on pure ability alone, if he was 100%, he definitely should not be that price, especially because Gaelic Warrior wasn't that great at Christmas. Solness is arguably a big enough price as well, considering he's probably the most straightforward of them here, and sometimes horses like him can just hit form and keep going, but it's not a race that I have any interest in at all from a betting point of view, Cass. Not at all.
Yeah, and quickly, Paddy, have you anything to add to that? Or
I think I'd be in agreement with you, Cass, about El Fabiolo. It's that fresh angle with him. You know, he's 2 from 2 with the track as well. Gaelic Warrior, he's his own worst enemy, is he? He gets very, very het up in the paddock. He's a real handful, and sometimes his races run before he even goes out. Now, that said, Townend, remember when they done that, when they had him on with Lydia Hislop and Ruby, he was very positive about how he kept going on his return run. He mentioned that a couple of times, which you'd probably maybe have to remember. But this El Fabiolo is the fresh angle with him, I think, is absolutely huge. So I've never really got on the Gaelic Warrior train, and as I mentioned, his demeanour beforehand certainly does let him down. So I'd be in agreement with you. I definitely thought El Fabiolo would be a little bit shorter than what he is.
yeah, and the other thing, like his jumping at Leopardstown at times has been poor. The mistake in him, but he's such an engine. And at the end of last season, we were so disappointed in him. Cheltenham happened. I was amazed they ran him at Sandown, but watching back Sandown, it wasn't as bad, as it seemed at the end of the season, and that he was still there with John Bond jumping the last time. Was only beaten about 3 lengths. So, if you're within 3 lengths of John Bond this season, jumping the last at Sandown, you're probably favoured in this race. So I just think, look, he's just a wild price. That's the angle with him. The Champion Hurdle, look, we don't have the jockey bookings doing this Thursday night, so I don't think we'll even bother talking about that. And then we're into the handicaps. And Tony, we'll start with you. We know you like a lot in handicap. The Mayor's handicap, Paddy Mullen's Mayor's handicap hurdle is the first one on the Sunday. What's come down on in this one?
Yeah, I've looked at it, Stephen. Haven't got to it yet. It's going to wait till declarations. I think does Diarmuid have won in that?
Yeah, I think Cottesloe Sunshine is a very big price there at 8 to 1 if she does run. That form with Beaufort Storm, who you like actually as well, Cash. She ran a great race last weekend. She beat her last time. In third was Dream Baby, who ran a screamer as well. She runs her off a very nice mark at 126. Well, I know Queen's Gamble is going to be all the rage. Fair play to Harry Derham as well. He's bringing over a runner here. She's a very good horse, but she has to concede quite a bit of weight now to a horse whose back form does include horses who ran very well in the Soul Arena hurdle. She won that race, and I just thought off a mark of 126, 8 to 1 does look very big there, considering her form got a hell of a boost last weekend.
It did, Dermo, and we might stick with you and do a wrap. So on the Sunday handicaps, you have the Leopardstown handicap chase, the one that James de Barley is favoured for, and the Mayor's bumper, which is a belter of a race. You've Future Prospect 6 to 4, Amen Kate 7 to 2. Had you any view in either of those races that you want to run through?
Yeah, first of all, the handicap chase. I'm still going through it. Back to Normal is the one that I'm very interested in. I do love that horse. It's just very short. He's really got the Cromwell tax on him now, considering how well Cromwell's doing, because he hasn't shown all that much over fences yet to warrant being 6 to 1. I'd be very interested in him.
And Dermot, to save time in the next race, is there a Cromwell horse in it, and can people just take it that you tipped it?
No, I have not. No, he'd be the one, but I'd like to see Back to Normal as far as to see how he runs as far as the Kim Weir, because this is the route that I know the way you're thinking took last year. Had a quiet run here, and then went there. But the hurdle race, all the talk is that Brave Troop just has to turn up. Owned by Paul Byrne, trained by Charles Burns. I'd say that phone call now is like Johnny Tightlips ringing himself. I'd say now it's a very hard phone call. I'd say.
Well,
I'd say there's not much.
Paul Byrne will say a lot. He'll say an awful lot, but he'll say nothing. Do you know what I mean? He could talk for Ireland, and he'll come out of it thinking, "Geez, he actually did tell me on there at the end of that." Yeah. He's got the gift of the gab, that man.
I'd say those phone calls are class, but all the talk is that this horse just kind of needs to rock up here. He looks another brilliantly mad purchase that just kind of has kept rolling. But that is all the talk there. But the other one that I really like here is Cappuccino. Liz Doyle actually has a very good record as well at the DRF. She's 2 for 9, which is very good for a trainer of her level. And Cappuccino was actually a real eye catcher last time. He ran on to be 5th in a very good handicap hurdle. And he got an absolute stones of a ride. It was an awful ride. He came from a mile back there, but he had no business being that far back. He comes in here off a very nice rating. He's 14 to 1. His trainer goes well here at this meeting. She targets it from a long way out. He's a good horse, I think. I just think it was a shock. It was just a brutal ride last time. He's a decent horse, a lovely jumper. He's got a good attitude. And at 14 to 1 there for a race like this with a trainer who, again, has a good record. Like her and Charles Burns are by far strike weight wise the best at the festival here. You've got 4 out of 11 for Charles Burns. She's 2 for 9. And one of them was Ballybon Belter, who won at a very big price here as well one year. He to me now looks like this has been kind of the plan. It mightn't have been a stones, it might have been a plan. I might forgive Sean O'Keefe that, but it just didn't look great anyway. But if he gets closer, jumping the last, he made up a hell of a lot of ground, and he's a very big price as well. So him, but Brave Troop is hard to get away from. Charles Burns and Paul Byrne, that is just an incredible combination, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And that Dermot, would you say the Cappuccino got there too? Latte? That's fantastic stuff now. Fantastic stuff.
We're recording late when that comes out.
I've drank a full glass of wine now at this stage. Paddy, the other races on the card on the Sunday, that good handicap hurdle, the old Pearsons we call it, the Paddy Mullen's Mares handicap hurdle, and the Mares bumper. Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I thought the Mares handicap, that was a really, really good race. And obviously Queen's Gamble, Rachel Blackmore, she's booked for the ride, isn't she? But 11 stone 12, I know she's in against her own sex here, but that would take a fair bit of carrying going into the Irish's backyard as well. Jenny Macaroni, only a 5-year-old caster, definitely thought she was worth a look. There could still be a bit of mileage in her off 1-2-2, and Queen's Gamble declared here keeps her weight down at 11 stone, so definitely thought that she was worth a look, but very deep race there.
Yeah, and the Mare's bumper, Paddy, or the other handicaps, any thoughts on those?
Well, the Cooper mare, without a doubt, Amen Kate, I mean, she absolutely destroyed that Carrigmore Spruce, and then she went and won her next two. So the form has been franked, and I mean, the Cooper yard, they've not been that busy with runners of late, so impossible to gauge where they're at fitness or health-wise, but she couldn't have done any more than what she did on debut. I mean, they booked Patrick for the ride, and we know that these owners, they don't mind putting their hand in their pocket to buy a nice one, and it looks like they have a nice one here for sure. So just definitely thought that she was worth a look in the bumper, but doesn't look a bad bumper, that.
Yeah, super bumper, that Mare's bumper, really good. A quiz question for you lads. Tom Cooper has trained 2 Grade 1 winners in Ireland. One of them's an easy one to get now. You can put your hat, you can shout out red and white colours, 2 mile. Who's that, Dermot?
Sorry, for Paddy the Plaster, obviously, yeah.
Correct, yeah, and major bonus points now if you get the other one. Won a novice chase at the Punchestown Festival. This horse, I know, going back 10 or 15 years. No, in fairness, I would have been trying. Lucky William was the horse.
Oh, God, yeah. Lucky William was right.
Yeah, the old yellow and blue colours. Lucky William was another one. Tony, this is all leading up to you doing the big sweep of the Sunday handicaps and give us another 50 to 1 shot to double up with Lucky Lowry.
Yeah, don't another 50 to 1 shot. But Leopardstown Chase, look, James de Berle was kind of third in this last year. Probably the 5th best horse with Percival Legal was falling and Chavez doing the same. I would say he's a Midland favourite. He's come to Mullins. The only race he's won with Mullins was he's 1-4 at Fairyhouse. There's something a bit gammy about his finishing effort. If you look at his in-running history on Timeform website, there's a lot of short trades, so I'd say he's an ordinary favourite. Pinkerton, I would say the Paddy Power is just what he is. I don't think there's any much more to come with him. So I was going down the list here, and the one I like was Frank Gedete, cutting back and trip, which I think is going to be a massive plus for him. His 2 pieces of form from last spring over intermediate trips are excellent. he won in Limerick in a kind of a slow pace race, admittedly, beating Dancing Germany and Let's Go Champ. Dancing Germany won the Tim Duggan there late last month, and Let's Go Champ would have went on and won a good race at Punchestown. And then he went to Punchestown himself, and him and Percival de Galvez had an absolutely brilliant battle for the last mile and a half of that race, and Frank Giltay got the bet from. That form has eventually worked out. So I am interested in Frank Giltay going back down in strip here. He is 2 runs since that. He started back at Galway. It was the October, November meeting there, 2 mile 6 handicap hurdle. I don't think he got home there. Just tripped and testing ground seemed to stretch him. Probably made his move into the race a bit too soon as well. And then surprisingly, but I'd say the plan was just to go for the Paddy Power because Paddy Conlon loves Leopardstown. And I don't have a massive excuse for him, but I've got about 4 small ones for him in the Paddy Power. I think there's definitely the possibility he didn't stay. I'd say he was probably in the wrong part of the track when down the inside wasn't ideal. He hit a fence quite badly halfway down the back. And maybe biggest thing of all was I'd say the ground was a bit too fast for him. And the ground looked like it's going to be a little bit slower on Sunday. So yeah, he's 16-1 general. I backed him. Yeah, I think it's a big price. The Timeless Sash handicap hurdle, again, absolutely cracking race here. There are 3 or 4 just very unexposed horses in this that all look to have good chances. Just on the subject of Brave Troop, I would think he is. I'd be almost certain he's a well-handicapped horse still. I would be worried about the ground if it's softened up for him. I don't think he wants it any softer, but would I be surprised if he won? Absolutely not. I think McLaury is another horse on the up. I think he's been let in reasonably late off 120, given the maiden hurdles he's coming from. The one the last day in Limerick wasn't that strong, but the ones before that were quite very strong. So I'd respect him. Did kind of be, but anyway, back in them. But the 2 horses I liked at the prices were 2 horses potentially cutting back from 2.5 miles. Owen Griffin's horse, Old Man Dingle, who has been a revelation since the tongue tie has gone on to him. He won a 2.5 mile race at Leopardstown at Christmas. He just won that so easily. He travelled through it like a 2 miler. He won at Wexford on slow ground over 2 miles before that. I'd say beating Tap on the Go, who was by all accounts very well fancied for that race at Leopardstown, beating him nicely is just a very good performance. So I would respect him. If he pitches up there, he'd be very close to the top of my list. And the other one that I liked is Mullins here. That's probably going to be the second, third, fourth string, a horse called Stormbreaker. Again, he's been running over 2.5 miles, but I think he's actually a 2 miler. He was far too keen 2 starts back at Fairyhouse off a break. And then they ran him at Punchestown. Now, he was dropped out, settled a little bit better in the hood, but he wasn't a mistake that he made. He seemed to lose his footing or take a false step after about the 5th or 6th from home, and he just in an impossible position. Kind of had to circle the field, make a big move into it out wide, and he's ran into a very well handicapped horse in Farmers Lodge anyway, I would say. So I think dropping back to 2 miles will really suit him. He can ride a race in this race because it's this type of race like last year Lord Erskine, who actually wouldn't be without a chance himself at 50-1 if there's a drop of rain, can kind of come from a bit back with him. So Stormbreaker and Old Man Dingle, 2 horses coming back from 2.5 miles. As you kind of mentioned there, like the Mayor's Bumper to me is a grade above the Gelding's Bumper on Saturday. This is an absolutely excellent race. I know that Amen Kate has beaten Queely's horse Carrickmuir and Spruce. I just think Carrickmuir and Spruce has improved since that. I think she might be a different horse from Listowel. I would say Cooper's horse was very ready in Listowel. I'm not sure Queely's was. She was one of, if not the most impressive bumper winner I've seen this season, what she did at Leopardstown at Christmas. Coming from rear, getting into a bit of bother on the turn-in, steady pace, but still able to win. She really got him out of trouble. But perhaps most interestingly of all, I was reading a comment from him on the IrishRacing.com. And if this is right, I think she's a really good bet anyway, but to me, this just blew me. He said she was 80% fit at Leopardstown. Now, you might say that's absolute garbage, but he said this about Mozzie's sister before she ran at Limerick. She'd run at Navan before that behind the Yellow Clay, and that girl put up a vastly improved performance at Limerick. So he has a bit of form for getting these kind of predictions right in recent times. So I think Carrickmuir Spruce is a good bet in that, and they will also definitely be backing Anthony McCann's mare. She's a kind of magic. She was coming back from a long time off at Punchestown when she was second to Heads Up, and I thought she just won really well in Limerick. I thought Anya O'Connor didn't have to go for everything at any point in the race. She raced down the inside, which again, I'm not certain of this, but it possibly wasn't the best part of the track. That form has worked out well since. A couple of winners come out. Paul Nolan had a horse, Euphoria, come out and won really well at Cork. I think that horse probably needed the run in Limerick, but it's still a little bit of a boost to it. I think the second has come out and won a race 2 since. 33-1 is a big price at that. Like Anthony McCann is quite capable of bumper mares. He kind of in the last 3 or 4 years, he got a couple of good horses like this. Obviously, the one that was running behind Maureen and won the Familiar Dreams standout, but he actually trained I think a half brother to this, Kiki Badger, in the same colours, is quite decent. So yeah, Carrigmore is Spruce and She's Kind of Magic both look overpriced to me, and that Coolmore bumper to close it off.
Fair play, Tony. A good rattle through the handicaps and the bumper. That bumper is a cracker, that mare's bumper. Dermo and Betfred are sponsors. They're going to have some kind of, is it booths or something on our selections or on the weekend?
Yeah. So overall there, I believe the Tony's nap of Lady Vega Allen, etc. will all be there. So just have a quick look at the D_Racehour on Twitter, and we will have all those kind of pushed out as the day goes tomorrow, and Betfred will have boosts on some of our selections there, yeah.
Fair play. Thanks to Betfred for that. Okay, I'm going for naps, lads. And Paddy, I'm coming to you first. Your nap for the whole weekend.
I'm going to go on Saturday cast, and in that 225, the 3 mile handicap, Flicker of Hope for Mark Fahey. Really do think that this is an upwardly mobile horse, and with Aidan Kelly's a £5 off, he still is only running off a mark of 1-2-4. Now, this is a very, very deep race, but trainers in good nick, as I mentioned, a couple of winners at Dundalk the other night. And I just think, again, could be a better horse in a better race, which is certainly going to get on Saturday. So, Flicker Hope in the 225.
Fair play. It'd be great to see Mark Fahey get a winner at the weekend. Diarmuid, Nolan, your nap?
Yeah, so I'll be napping Cottesloe Sunshine there in the first race on Sunday. Mark of 126, very, very simply, is below where her ceiling of ability lies, and I think she's a very big price at 8-1.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that race that she won, Dermo. Yeah, very good. And Tony, you're not?
Lady Vega Allen, for reasons already mentioned, and swiftly followed by Rank of the Tail.
Very good, very good. My nap, I think the El Fabiola price could be gone, so I'm going to bet nap a law of her own. She's around 20-1 in the 2 mile handicap chase on the Saturday. Lads, best of luck with your punting for the weekend, and listeners, best of luck with your punting for the weekend. We don't often say it, but one of those weekends probably should gamble responsibly. And thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Paddy Aspell, Diarmuid Nolan, Tony Keenan, and thank you to Betfred and Gambling.com, and we will see you next week for the review show.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounding Cotton Star into submission.